Looking back on the 6-game road trip, what was good, what was bad, what happened to Jayson Tatum that could unlock him and take him to yet another level? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here in the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I'm here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast. Drop directly to your device if you are a subscriber, so make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. You can even watch the show on YouTube. I love having all of you on YouTube. One of the advantages of subscribing on YouTube, the show drops a little earlier than the audio podcast because it's just a different audience. The audio podcast is for mostly commuters and stuff. So YouTube podcast, when I get a chance to drop it earlier, I do. And it's a great chance for people to communicate with each other. So please join the YouTube community. I'm choked up, and I'm John Karalis, and I'm not editing that out. I'm a former professional basketball player covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Now, I've also written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. Today, we are going through the road trip. The road trip is over. The 6-game beast of a trip that started in Brooklyn and ended in LA. We're going to go through all of that and why this is preparation for January. January's schedule is a beast. First, today's show brought to you by Craic Sauce, C-R-A-I-C, craicsauce.com. Hot sauce, big, bold flavors, built different, made in Massachusetts, made in Lowell, Massachusetts. Couple of updates. The SoHo Winter Market in South Boston is done, so you can't go there to pick it up anymore. The Aji Punch, the Sweet Heat, is sold out. So congratulations to everybody who picked that up. Go to Craic Sauce, C-R-A-I-C sauce.com. Use the promo code Locked On for plenty of other options. Great last-minute gift. So let's bring in our friend, Tom Westerholm.
What up?
To underscore
Hey.
the road trip here. How you doing, Tom?
I'm good, man. I'm dude, I'm so happy they're done with this road trip.
I am
Oh
thrilled.
my gosh. Like just
I'm
not as excited. I'm not as excited as Tatum and Jaylen and all the other guys, like, because everybody had something to say about how excited they were to go home yesterday. But
that's like the first thing everybody said after the game. It's like, oh,
literally,
thank God this is over. Seriously, everybody did. With
literally the first thing. Tatum to Chris Haynes on TNT. Damn, I'm tired.
Yeah. And so that's a good starting point because this trip was exhausting.
Yeah.
Think about this, man. First of all, you go Brooklyn, Toronto back-to-back, down to Phoenix, over to Golden State, LA back-to-back. So 2 back-to-backs and a 3-game in 4-game stretch on a road trip that's generally longer than most road trips. So this was a beast of a trip, and there's no surprise to me, Tom, that when we look at it, okay, they went 4-2, which to me, fine. Sign me up for 4-2 on this road trip. The fact that things started to cascade downwards as the trip went on, shouldn't really be surprising.
Not a surprise at all for a bunch of reasons. I think number one, you mentioned how that road trip was longer than most road trips, right? It's the longest road trip that I've seen while I've been covering the Celtics. Like I have not seen a 6-game road trip, which was funny last night when I realized the Lakers had just gotten done with a 6-game road trip and they were back from. I was like, I had spent all this time talking about like, the Celtics are on this long road trip. This is, whatever. And then I was like, oh, and also their opponent tonight just got back from one. So I don't know, maybe I'll scale it back a little bit. But I do think that, like you said, 4-2, that's pretty good. The other thing, I was looking up some stats from the road trip, and like the Celtics, so their net rating over the road trip was like, 1 point something. It was like much lower than their season average. But the reason it was so low is because their defense really held up. That's super encouraging if you're the Celtics. Like that the reason that you did well on this road trip, you're going to expect the shots to suffer, right? Expect the 3-pointers to start missing because you're tired. Damn, you're tired, as Tatum put it. Like some of the offensive stuff, this beautiful game you've been playing, like just all the passing, all the all kind of the concentration that all requires. Yeah, that might suffer a little bit. But the reason the Celtics went 4-2 and the reason the Celtics did pretty well was because of their defense. That's a super encouraging road trip to me. You come off that, you can feel pretty good going back to Boston.
I have the numbers here. So offensive rating for the Celtics over the 6-game trip in totality, 108.1, which is about 12 points below normal, and 27th in the league. Fourth worst offense in the league over the course of 6 games. Now throw in 2 stinkers in there that really drag the number down. Okay, that's what happens with the small sample size.
Right.
Defensive rating though 106.9, which was 5th best, which led to that 1.3 net rating. So over the past 6 games, the Celtics are one of 11 teams. 12. Okay, half the league had a positive net rating, so they're up in the top half. So ultimately, good. 5th in the league defensively. They're able to kind of hold their own, and you're starting to see that defensive thing, the defensive trend kind of going in the right direction. That is good. That is good. And the Celtics able to get stops finally at the end of the last night's game, at the end of the Lakers game. Might have been just more because the Lakers were gassed. I mean,
they were gassed.
They were toast. I think it was really funny. I mentioned in the last night's show. Both teams, once they got their biggest lead of the game, collapsed. So Celtics went up 20 and were like, and then gave up a massive run. And the Lakers got up 13 with a few minutes to go, and they're like, oh, okay. Look at how bad the Celtics looks. There's no way they're coming back from this. Psych. So yeah. So anyway, to your point, the defense is coming around, which is great because Robert Williams is coming back at some point. Another thing from this road trip. Let's just get to that. Let's just get to that. Robert Williams comes out before the Warriors game, and video of him in practice, video of him running with the team. All of a sudden, he's day by day, and Joe Mazzulla's smirking, and he can't keep that smile off his face. And Robert Williams does an interview about how great he's feeling. It's like, wow, day to day, we might even see him against the Warriors. No, not against the Clippers, not against the Lakers. He might play when he gets home on Friday, which is exactly what we thought before the trip started. What the hell was that? Why did they do that to us?
That was weird. Like, why do any of that? Honestly, man, like, your plan made a lot of sense. Send him to the G League. If he's really day by day, go have him play some games in Maine. We just got done saying that there's all these games in Maine that he could play, and instead he went on this road trip. And I mean, Robert Williams seems like
great that he's on this road trip.
Delightful young man. Like, of course, it'd be nice to have him along, of course. But it just like, unless he was just purely there to be a vibes guy, which maybe that's the reason they went 4-2. Look, Celtics positive defensive net rating with Rob Williams along on road trips. So
sure. Hey, that's one way to spin it.
So.
Sure.
Yeah,
Robert Williams already making a difference with the defense.
You know what? Like, yeah, just purely his presence. They don't even want to shoot when he's on the bench. It's completely different. No, but I do think like it was very strange that they came out and they did all that. It was almost like it was almost like they were trying to like do like a Bill Belichick thing. Like, oh, is he like you might have to prepare for Rob Williams. Like, I didn't understand it at all. But
I didn't either.
But yeah, I mean, now he's got 2 days to 2 days to unpack all his stuff from the road trip and maybe play on Friday. Who knows?
Look, the G League is still an option here. They can at least bring back. What do we say? They play on Thursday night.
Yeah,
the Maine Celtics play on Thursday night. We're recording this on Wednesday, so hey, this is the possible. It's still. My plan still theoretically could come to fruition. Get him that game under his belt, bring him back on Sunday, and kind of see how he responds.
That Sunday game, that really nice little like Sunday afternoon. All the kids are in attendance.
So perfect.
sell some Rob Williams jerseys to some little kids yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. So I still think it's possible. At the very least, bring the Red Claws down, have them scrimmage. The Celtics have the day off on Thursday anyway. Bring the Maine Celtics. I keep saying Red Claws. Bring the Celtics down to the facility or something like that. I don't know. I still, whenever I get fixated on a plan, I want it to happen. I want that I told you so moment so bad. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think him not playing on the road trip is a little bit of an "I told you so" after Joe Mazzulla was out there smirking.
After everything, I was like, "Geez, I guess I blew it." But no, I didn't blow it. He still didn't play on this thing.
Yep.
More takeaways coming up on this from the road trip. Getting into maybe some of the more specific things that we've seen, and just kind of overall how we feel about this. And I got to think about Jayson Tatum. I kind of want to get Tom's take on how Jayson Tatum was defended and how he handled certain things with that. So I'll do that in just a moment. First, today's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN, which we know protects your privacy and security online. But maybe you didn't know, you can also use ExpressVPN to unlock movies and shows that are only available in other countries. Maybe you've run out of stuff to watch on Netflix. You can fire up ExpressVPN, change the location to the UK, refresh Netflix, and boom, that's it. ExpressVPN lets you control where you want sites to think you are located. So you can choose from almost 100 different locations. My mouth is in a different location right now. Imagine Netflix libraries that you can go through. Korean dramas? Sure, no problem. Anything, anywhere you want to go. It works with Hulu, BBC iPlayer, YouTube, you name it. There are hundreds of VPNs out there. But the reason to use ExpressVPN is that there's never any buffering or lag. It's ridiculously fast. You can stream HD, no problem. It works on all your devices, phones, media consoles, smart TVs, and more. So you can watch what you want on the big screen or on the go. So if you want access to hundreds of new shows, go to expressvpn.com/lockedon right now. You can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free at expressvpn.com/lockedon, expressvpn.com/lockedon to learn more. Today's show is also brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You're hanging out with some friends, putting back a few drinks, and a few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end, people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride, and then you think, I live nearby. Can make it home okay. It's no big deal. This has happened at holiday parties all over the place. What are the odds you're going to get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that can happen? Your insurance can go up. Oh, you can lose your license. You can lose your job. You can total your car, or you could even kill somebody. Everyone knows the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe, plan ahead, and get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Now make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. All the stuff from across the sports world that you need to know, the big headlines with the local experts. You're never going to find a show like this anywhere else. It's on Locked On Sports Today. Find it wherever you got this podcast, also on YouTube. Let's bring Tom Westerholm back in to get back into this road trip. And Tom, I think we saw the best win of the season, the Toronto game. I still think that was the best one. The Lakers game kind of had that same vibe of a choice to make. You came out, you blew a 20-point lead, you got down 13, you had a choice to make. I'm not putting it in the same class as the Raptors game because I think the Raptors game, that was the halftime decision to come out after a tough first half against a team that was really, really like much more in a position to win that game. So you got fairly easy wins, Brooklyn and Phoenix. You got two tough wins in Toronto and LA, two tough losses in Golden State and the Clippers. So out of all of that, is there anything that comes out that stands out to you as something that can carry over into the next season? Maybe something positive, maybe something negative.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like if we're looking at the negatives, I do think that we saw like we saw the Celtics kind of dip their toes back into last year, right? Like or
Yeah.
like to the beginning of last year. Not they didn't dive back in. They got themselves back out of it against the Lakers, and then they kind of dipped their toes again a little bit, and then they got themselves back out of it again. But we just that little bit of like, we still got a little bit of this left. Is if you're if you're if you've been watching the Celtics, like the signs, right?
Oh
The
yeah.
offense the offense gets super stagnant. Marcus Smart is trying to find somebody for 15 seconds and then just dribbling around, and then all of a sudden he chucks a ball off the glass that was like,
Oh
that could have been like Shaquille O'Neal breaking a backboard. Like it was, I mean, there was like the signs. Like Jayson Tatum starts attacking four people at once when there's guys who are open, and
yeah.
one pass might swing all the way around and find him again, but he doesn't make that pass. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you want a positive, if you want to spin zone that, the Celtics did get themselves out of it, right? Like it was, a couple of games of that against the Warriors, and then some against the Clippers, and then a little bit against the Lakers. But then I really think that them stealing themselves and saying like, okay, all right, transition, we got to stop it. Points in the paint, we got to stop it. Let's stop those things. And then they did it, and then they won. That's a massive positive. Like the fact that it didn't take them 50 games like it did last year. It took
Yeah.
them two and less than a quarter to just kind of like, nope, we raise ourselves up now.
Yeah.
That's a massive positive. That's such growth over last year. So, I mean, we'll see we want to see it continue, right? You want to see that offense now that they're back home. They've got this 7-game homestand. They're not going to be playing like Adam Silver isn't going to be like, trying to give them all leg cramps. Like this is like this stretch has been crazy.
Yeah.
But like you want to see that offensive rating trickle back up, like see some of these big point totals again. But yeah, I think again, if you want to look at positives and negatives, I think those are the two big ones to me from the road trip.
Yeah, I think the real positive is that they found a way to win the two swing games. So you can say
Right,
on a
right.
6-game road trip, I think without the green tint that most, if you who are listening or watching are saying, "Oh, we can win this, we can win that, we can win that." 6-0, 5-1. If you say generic NBA team goes on 6-game West Coast swing or 6-game opposite coast swing, you can say you probably win a couple. There are probably a couple of losses in there, and there's 2 swing games that'll make you either it'll be a good trip or a bad trip. That's generally how I think you could approach that. So you got the Brooklyn win, you got the Phoenix win. And maybe it's not the teams that you thought, but those were the two. You had the Toronto turnaround and you had the Lakers turnaround as your swing games. The Warriors game, I think, good lesson out of the Warriors game. I think I keep saying they put too much emphasis on it and tried too hard. I think they took themselves out of their own flow. That carried over a little to the Lakers, and by that time, now they're starting to get tired.
Real quick, sorry. I do that, and I think that Warriors thing is related to them dipping their toes back in, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think
sure.
one of the reasons we saw them dip their toes back in is because they found themselves in a familiar situation against a very familiar opponent. And
Yes.
if you want to be discouraged by that, I think that is a little bit reasonable because you're better than that, guys. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
to play that way.
So my positives are about the 2 swing games. That's good. They found a way to win. Anytime you can do that, that's great. But let's go to the negative, and let's go to that Golden State game and take it back to the Miami game that they lost at home before the trip,
Yes.
and the Clippers game, and like Jayson Tatum, who had a couple of really bad games. Obviously, he had the big 44-point explosion against the Lakers. But the Warriors and the Heat, they found a way to kind of defend Tatum. And Brian Scalabrine was talking about it afterwards on the post game. You actually force him to drive. You want him to drive, but you're driving him into help. And I highlighted this a little bit on Boston Sports Journal, where against the Warriors, he was actually being forced to his dominant hand, which as a basketball player, if I see somebody forcing me to my right, I'm thinking, A, you don't know the game plan, or B, wait a second, you're not supposed to do that. And when it's against Jayson Tatum, everybody knows the game plan. So Tatum doesn't normally like to drive left a ton. He will, obviously, but when you force Tatum to drive and then you send over the help, what we've seen from Tatum a lot is he's already made up his mind to go, I'm going to finish this. But the help has come over, and now what? Now what? So do you think that is something to be concerned about? Or is it fixable, or like what's your take on that?
So I think I don't think it's something to be concerned about, because one of the things that we're seeing is that it's happening in December, right? Like if if this was like April or something like that, it would be like, interesting. But like, we're right before the playoffs. Like, well, for one thing, I don't think teams would try it in April because I think they would want to save it for the playoffs. But
Sure, yeah.
but I think it's December. Like one of the things we've seen from Tatum, and one of the things that, we've talked about it before, Celtics coaches talk about all the time, is like how quickly he adjusts to things. Like these are not things that are like this isn't like the end of Jayson Tatum. And as such, like I do think he'll be able to figure it out in plenty of time for games that really matter. Will there be some hiccups along the way as he, kind of works his way through that? Sure, of course. Like, that's like a natural progression of the NBA season. But I mean, like what you just said, right? Tatum likes to go to his dominant hand. Of course he does. He's, a human being who plays basketball. You like your dominant hand. So what you're, again, like to use kind of the same concept that we've talked about before, what you're doing is telling Jayson Tatum, yeah, go the way you want to go. Like that's not a long-term strategy. That's something that you do to pick off a game or two during the regular season. So
Sure.
no, I think I think that it's a good idea, and it's the kind of little twist that teams can put together and can like that you can win a game with. And that's how you win games in the playoffs, right? Is you put those little twists in, and you make things a little complicated, and maybe it helps you steal a game. But like when you look down the road, Tatum figures this stuff out very quickly. I think he'll be fine.
I also think he'll be fine, and I actually think it's an opportunity for him to grow as a player.
Yeah.
Beyond the, oh, okay, when I see this guy, I need to pass, or I need to do this or that. I think there's an opportunity. This could be a defense. Let me broaden this out a little bit. This could be a defense that takes his game to another level. I'll tell you about that in just a second. First, today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar has the most amazing tasting protein bars on the market. We're talking about cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, coconut brownie topper. I mean, this is all just amazing stuff that's good and good for you. White chocolate peppermint granola. Hey, it's that time of year, right? It's Built's take on the granola bar that's more filling and still insanely tasty. Candy cane brownie puff. Built Puffs are like biting into the universe's most delicious cloud. So if you haven't tried Built Bar before, they're the best tasting protein bars ever built. They're revolutionizing nutrition. As we all know, it's 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, shockingly low sugar and calories, like 130 calories. So sink your teeth into that first bite and it'll change your life forever. I am going to get through this. I'm not kidding. There is still time. If you haven't tried these Built Bar flavors, magical, wonderful time afterwards. You're probably wondering which new flavor is my favorite. The unanswerable question, absolutely, to say the least, because they are all my favorites. They're all unbelievable. They're all different. So you can order a mixed box, try all 5 flavors yourself. It's Built, and you got to try this. 15% off your order right now with the promo code LOCKEDON15. That's LOCKEDON15 at Built.com. All right, Tom, I said before the break, I think this could be something that unlocks Tatum and gets him to a new level. And what I mean is, this is more than just saying, oh, I'm expecting this late help. I think this is an opportunity for him to say, okay, instead of when I turn the corner and pick up my dribble up around just past the free throw line and take 2 big strides and fly in and try to lay it up, this is an opportunity for him to play a little bit more under control. And what I would love for him to be doing much more often is channel a little bit of Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce had this knack of, he had the defender. So Tatum was driving down the right side of the lane. You get the defender on your left side. You just brush up against that defender with your left shoulder. You square up, and next thing you know, that guy's behind you. And once you get that guy behind you rather than on the side of you, you can keep that dribble alive, play off 2 feet. Now you can crow hop. Now you can step back out, draw the help out. Now you can start playing puppet master with the defense. Instead of trying to drive in and like, oh crap, I got to make this read now while I'm jumping. You go in, you keep that dribble a little shorter stride. Now you've got that live dribble and 3 guys looking at you, guy out in the corner, guy in the dunker spot, and you can say, oh, okay, I'm going to go 1 step this way or 1 step deeper to this guy who's going to help a little bit closer so I can kick it to this guy in the corner for a much more wide open 3. Or I'm going to go over from dunker. He's got to make a decision. If he's going to freeze or step up, boom, that's a lob. He's going to start manipulating those defenses. You want to come try and do that stuff? No problem. Tatum right now gives up his dribble a little too easily. And I think if he can just learn, eliminate this guy here, eliminate this defender, manipulate these other defenders, now you are unguardable. So I think that's where Tatum takes that next step. You can come down and say, I'm going to read these defenses and recognize what these guys are doing. Or you can get into that next level and say, oh, okay, you're forcing me this way. I'm just going to get my shoulder into this guy. And now I'm going to just widen out and play my game in the middle of the muck. And I'm going to force all you little, puppets to dance for me. That's where I think Tatum can be.
Yeah, it's almost and tell me if this doesn't make sense, because I've never really given voice to this thought before. But it's almost like Tatum kind of plays big, and now he's got to learn how to like play a little bit smaller too. Like it's almost like he takes these huge strides that you see guys like that like Giannis would take, right, or like that big men would take, and he's not quite Giannis's size, but he's a big dude, and like
right out there, yeah.
So he takes these big strides. He goes from like one side of the rim to the other, and from the elbow in 2 steps, and he all this stuff, like all these like long graceful moves. And when you talk about like the puppet master, that's stuff that a point guard does, right? That's stuff that like a great like Chris Paul does. That was, and one of the reasons Paul Pierce was so good is because he did all this manipulative stuff at what, 6'7", something like that, like. Yeah. So like, and that's, but that is kind of playing smaller, that's that kind of like, just being more in control, being more just kind of like, kind of taking stock of things instead of these long loping, like, these moves that are very hard to guard, but the way to guard them is to throw another defender at him, because he's already kind of committed to that motion. If you can kind of make your motion a little bit more stop and go instead of this long kinetic kind of thing that he's doing, I think that, it's a great way to unlock some more stuff, and certainly something that, like, when you look at his handle, his footwork, his touch, all this stuff, well within reach of his bag, like certainly something that he could fit in there.
If I can give Jayson Tatum a Christmas gift, I'd give him ballet lessons.
Ooh.
So he can get in there and learn all of the little footwork, those little things that can help him in the tight spaces. And there's another level. The beauty of what Jayson Tatum can be is that he's now at this point where he's an MVP candidate, and I still think there's another level that he can get to. He still can be a lot better. And look, we talk about Tatum. I got to make sure that when I talk about Tatum like this, got to make sure that Jaylen Brown gets the shout out, because I was
literally about to be like, we should talk about Jaylen too.
We should mention that Jaylen had an amazing road trip. I think Jaylen had the type of trip where the Celtics don't go 4-2 without Jaylen Brown doing what he does. So I think one of the other big positives out of this is when Jayson didn't have it, Jaylen did. And there are a couple of games in there where Jaylen maybe didn't quite have it the same way, and Jayson did. And it's unfortunately, I think it's leading to a lot of like people who like Jaylen Brown better are saying, why isn't he getting all the respect? I keep bringing that up, but hey, I did a Q&A on Boston Sports Journal today, and that comes up. It comes up all. You hear Skip Bayless talk about that. And like these people can't help but say, oh, well, Jayson Tatum's the MVP candidate. Why isn't Jaylen Brown? Well, let Jaylen Brown catch up a little bit here. And it's only mid-December. Maybe Jaylen Brown will become an MVP candidate. You don't know. He's playing extraordinarily well. So we do have to mention that this was, I think, actually a really great road trip for the overall kind of perception of both of these guys.
Real quick, I want to. There's an art to the hot take that like some people are really good at, and I just the Jaylen Jayson stuff in 2022 when it's almost 2023. Just that's too ham-handed. That's you're not that's not, there's no touch to it. There's no finesse to that hot take. There's an art form to this. Anyway, I mean, you want like a couple numbers from Jaylen during the road trip. 66.7% from mid-range, like sizzling hot. Like 68% at the rim. And for the season now, he is in the 91st percentile on dribble jumpers. So dribbling into a jumper, he is, I mean, like top 10% of the league.
Jaylen Brown, he's an elite scorer.
Elite. And one of the things that we're seeing is that like I think the one of the like I think the Celtics have this untapped thing still, because when you look at how Tatum has excelled all year, it's this like drive and kick, like, you know, hit, get the layups, get to the free throw line, hit these threes. And it's this hyper efficient stuff, right? That like the stuff that you build an offense around. And it's one of the reasons why Tatum plus the bench unit has just been so elite. But one of the other things we're seeing is that Jaylen is so good at just hammering the other parts of the floor where Tatum doesn't always do as much damage. He's just burying these mid-range jumpers.
Yep.
You know, where Tatum, here's an interesting thing. As a scorer, Tatum is like 0.88, something like that. I haven't looked in like the last like couple of days, but that's where he's been hovering. It's like 0.88 points per possession. Not that great in the pick and roll as the ball handler. Jaylen is well over 1 point per possession, and he's in like the 90th percentile as a pick and roll ball handling scorer. So like Tatum is the one spraying the ball, but Jaylen can finish those pick and roll options. Jaylen is hitting these mid-range jumpers. Jaylen's getting to the rim and getting these finishes. Like, I think there's this way that we haven't necessarily seen yet where the Celtics can complement each other, where Tatum and Jaylen can complement each other as scorers while Tatum is still kind of being this facilitating guy. I think we've seen still a little bit of like the your turn, my turn, where if all of that comes together, good luck. Like I really don't know what you do about that.
You know, it's funny, Tom. I made basically that exact same point yesterday post game. I did
not listen to the post game pod at 4:30 in the morning. I apologize. That's a hands up on mine.
I made the exact same point of with Tatum hitting like going threes and layups. It's Jaylen who can pick up all the mid range points, and it's hard for a defense. You're defending the Celtics with both those guys on the floor. It's hard to be like, oh, Jaylen has the ball. We got to squid. Everybody do this differently. And that when Jayson has the ball, you got to do that different. It's hard because you get into this type of, I don't know, routine that it's hard to defend both of those guys. So yeah, this is part of the evolution, and this is part of having superstars in their mid-20s who are still improving and still figuring themselves out. It's scary for the rest of the league. Scary.
And both of them are superstars at this point. You look at those like those graphics that you know, like you see on a lot of the national broadcasts where it's like, okay, the best duo scorers of all time, and it's like Jaylen and Jayson are number one. Like that includes like Shaq and Kobe and Bird and McHale, and it's like so far this season they are having the best duo scoring season of all time. That's wild. These guys are like, I mean, these guys are doing historic things together. So it's cool to watch, man. They are They are a couple of impressive basketball players.
They are. I think for clarification, I think that might have been like post-merger or something like that, because
Okay, sure.
there are some 60s lineups. So like Wilt and like any one of
Okay,
his
yeah.
teammates was
Fair.
So the final thing that
Wilton, some guy you've never heard of.
Wilt
Yeah.
and the 10th man were still averaging 60.
Right.
So because Wilt had 52 or something.
Right.
Let's briefly, because I did tease this before. This road trip is very helpful. They play these 6 games over the course of 10 days. They come home for, what is this, 7 games over the course of a little bit more than 2 weeks. And then they head back out on the road. So this resilience that they've learned is going to be, the lessons from this road trip are immediately going to be applied to January. So after this trip, this homestand, which we didn't even talk about, we can talk about tomorrow. Orlando, Indy, Minnesota, Milwaukee on Christmas Day, Houston, and the Clippers. There's a real strong possibility of coming out of that with a lot of wins. So I like their chances there. But then they go 4-game road trip, 2 games at home, another 3-game road trip, a game at home, another 3-game road trip, and 2 games at home in January. They played 15 times and only 5 home games in January. Yikes. Everything that they learned on this road trip, it's going to be applied in January. January is where we really see what this team is made of, Tom, because not only road heavy, January is the doldrums. This is where we see the teams have that mental ability to get through we're already this far into the season, I need a break. Can they get past these tough teams that will be gunning for them but maybe aren't so good? Or are they going to start to cave a little bit?
Full disclosure, before the pod, you brought up January, and I was like, oh, I haven't looked. And then I looked at it, and I was like, what is this? But I mean, like, if you look at the rest of the schedule, there's a lot of road games the rest of the way. I mean, you look at February, obviously there's the All-Star break, so there's not as many games. There's, that more, I believe it's 6 and 5 home and road. But then you go to March, it's 7 and 9 again. Like March, it's more road games than home games again. So yeah. It's the NBA season is a grind, and the Celtics have a lot of grinding ahead of them. But this was the longest road trip. Like you said, there were lessons here that can apply the rest of the way. So we'll see what they learned in the relatively near future.
Well, I hope our listeners have learned a lot over the past 38 minutes or so. So this will be a good place to stop. We'll pick this back up 24 hours from now.
Sounds good. I hope you have new water by then.
Yes, the water that was in this glass was poured at 4 a.m. for the last podcast, and half of it was left here, and that's all I had left. So, hey, look,
I forgot you didn't say that on the pod, so our listeners are probably somewhat confused there for a minute.
No, right. I just had like room temperature water sitting there in a half full glass, you got to do these podcasts, man. You got to crank them out. People demand the pods.
Algae is good for podcasting. More and more people are saying
it was only like 12 hours, so it didn't. It was fine. It was fine. We'll cut to me tomorrow with no voice. All right, Tom. We'll talk to you later. Whoop, whoop. There he goes, and there I go. Thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're new to the podcast, welcome aboard. Thank you so much for checking it out. Hopefully you are so happy about joining the show that you want to subscribe and you want to watch the show on YouTube and participate in the comments, because there are plenty of comments being made on the YouTube page. So hop in, comment away. And if you are a subscriber, I'd love it if you shared the podcast, told your friends, family, and everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.